You found us, and now you're listening to Heart of a Volunteer Veterans Podcast, where we have conversations with veterans ranging from our service time, development, family, motivation, and best practices for veterans. Welcome, and enjoy the show. All right, everybody. Hey, welcome back to another Veterans Chat here on the old Heart of a Volunteer Veterans Podcast. Everybody knows me. I'm your host, Chris. So, hey, today we're going to be talking, as the title alludes, to psychedelics. Now, if you've come to the podcast episode and you're thinking that this is going to be like dropping acid at a Dead concert or doing a hero's dose of psilocybin, well, you're poorly mistaken. If you obviously haven't listened to the podcast before, because when we do talk about anything cannabis, alcohol, or anything like that, we talk about the abuse of alcohol, and we talk about using cannabis as recovery from workouts, helping to get sleep, and reduce anxiety. There's a difference there, folks. The things we talk about here, this isn't a game. This isn't a game that veterans are playing, trying to live, trying to get their lives on track, be there for their families, for themselves, and for their friends and other veterans. So the conversation we're going to be having today, we're going to be having with Jacob Bowman. Jacob was a Ranger medic in 275. He's a very good friend of mine. And he went down to South America. He went down to Medellin, Colombia, and did an ayahuasca ceremony. Now, he's done a few of them, but we're going to be talking about one of the ceremonies he went through. He's going to be talking about everything leading up to it, what led him to it, how he got there, the ceremony and the layout and the feel of it all. All right. Once again, folks, this is not an episode. If you think this is a game, if you think this is all psychedelics is all about fun, then you're mistaken. There's a lot of people out there, and I want to use an analogy when it comes to psychedelics, to mental health, okay? When it comes to boots, right? I just got a pair of Oslo boots in the mail today, and I love Oslo boots. There's a lot of people that dislike them altogether, and that's fine with me because my feet love these boots, right? I take them out of the box. They've never been worn before. I put them on, and the only problem I have is around the ankle. The rest of the footbed is hugging my foot and loving it. I could go on a road march or a run right now in these boots and be perfectly fine. Somebody else gets in these boots and they're all kinds of jacked up. If you remember the old leather boots, right? The all black leather boots, you used to have to spit shine them. They came in like 3 sizes of width. And, of course they had the multiple sizes. If you were lucky, to find your size, you got the right size. But most of the time that wasn't the case. And you had to throw them in the shower in hot water. You had to walk them for months to get them going. And they still didn't fit your feet properly. They weren't providing you the kind of support you needed, primarily because everybody's feet are different. You've got people that are flat-footed. You got people that have mid-arch, high arches, people with bunions like myself, Ranger feet. You got other people that have really wide feet, really narrow feet. So you can't have one boot that's going to fit everybody. It's impossible to do. Even with other manufacturers, you're still going to have problems trying to fill your inventory with this eclectic spread of feet. It's the same thing when it comes to individuals, right? Feet are an individual thing, just like the mind is, right? Everybody is different in their own way. They think in their own way. They have their own harmonics of their brains, and we cannot disregard that. Now, when we talk about psychedelics, we're talking about people that are trying to find answers. They're trying to get rid of extra baggage. Now, you can go to therapy. You can get a lot of this stuff done. And a lot of these veterans do. This is like last resort stuff because most of us we're Reagan babies, right? We live through don't do drugs. This is your brain on drugs. And we had that whole generational effect just coming down and trying to show us the right thing to do, right? Well, we're coming out of that, folks. If you can't see that we're coming out of that, then you need to open up your eyes, right? You've got research that's being done on psychedelics. John Hopkins is doing one on MDMA. It was supposed to be out this year, but obviously with the virus, they've turned their focus to something else, right? But there is a lot of good stuff going on out there. There's a lot of great organization. Heroic Hearts Project, they send veterans down to South America on scholarships for them to go to these retreats and go through these ceremonies. Now, I talk, and Jacob's going to talk too, I'm pretty sure, about ceremonial. That's what this all is. It has nothing to do with like fun and games. This is all about healing the self, finding that connection with everything, and walking back into life, continuing the ceremony of being a better person and fitting in. We got a long road to walk on this life, folks. Don't condemn another veteran because you don't know. Get the information, listen to this podcast episode, listen to what Jacob has to say. If this isn't your thing, then don't listen. If you're going to talk smack about it, you need to reach out to me directly, and we'll bring you on the podcast, and you can talk about whatever you think that you know. But you better do your research. You better do your research because that's what it takes to understand this stuff. But hey, I'm not here to judge anybody. I'm not here to preach. I'm just telling everybody that there are veterans out there that are in need of something different than Western medicine. And there are a lot of veterans out there that look to the old ways that have been passed down for millennia. Our Native Americans used to use psychedelics after battles. They would come back, and instead of them coming right back to the village and dropping their kit and going in their tent, loving on their wife, smacking the kids, and kicking the dog, they stopped short of the village, out of sight, out of sound of it. And they sent a runner, and that runner would bring the chief, the medicine man, sometimes the scalp chief would come along. And they would basically do ceremonies that would strip away the enemy's spirit from those scouts that came back. We don't do this, folks, but the thing is, this is stuff that's been happening long before we were here. And it's something that we need to think about embracing again, because there's a lot of people out there that are struggling, and there's easy ways to get your head back on a swivel and see reality the way it's supposed to be seen, not with the way your life has been stacked. That's the way you see it. Imagine looking at something and seeing a flashback of a deployment when you see it. You're living a different reality. This helps you get back on it. So without further ado, I'd like to bring on my good friend Jacob Bowman, and let's have a great talk. All right. Hey, Jacob, welcome to the show, my friend. How you doing?
I'm doing good, man. It's good to be here.
Brother, we had a great conversation, man. Would have been about a week ago working on this episode. We were supposed to record a few days ago. Of course, the Texas weather and rain came through here, and of course, being in the studio with a metal roof, it was way too loud. But I'm glad we're getting a chance to do this now, man. And I want to thank you right off the bat for coming on the show.
Yeah, I appreciate it, man. Thanks for having me on. It's been kind of a fun experience.
Yeah, man. We're just so people know what Jacob and I are getting ready to talk about on this episode. Obviously, we're talking about psychedelics, but we have dabbled into about 50 other places of conversations that are, I got to tell you, Jacob, they're noteworthy. You know what I'm saying? They are subjects that I hope that we jump down and and explore either on a personal level or even here on the podcast.
Yeah, I look forward to that, man. It's been real nice getting to know you, and being able to bounce these questions off someone else.
Yeah, hell yeah, man. Hell yeah. Hey, so, we talked about the weather here, man. It's been absolutely bonkers. Of course, this is my first winter here at the lake house. How is the weather there in Washington State been treating you this winter?
It's been pretty good. We get our typical northwest sun. By northwest sun, I mean just one sheet color of gray in the sky that seems to have. There's days where it has no contour; it's just lifeless.
Right.
But it's been good. We had a pretty decent storm a couple weeks ago, but we didn't get hit that hard so far. But past few years, February has been the month, so
right.
We'll see.
Now you born and raised in Washington State, right?
Yeah, I was born actually in Puyallup, and then I was raised in a town, Parkland, for a long time.
And where are they located at?
So Parkland's actually right outside McCord Air Force Base.
Okay.
So I used to watch all the air shows as a kid from the roof of my house. It was pretty cool.
Nice.
And then Puyallup is it's down in the valley right before you hit. There's two ways to get to Seattle. You can take I-5 or you can go through 512 down into the valley, which is the Puyallup River, the Indian Reservation, Port Tacoma, and then you can head north to like Auburn and Renton and all those other places, Bellevue, stuff like that.
Well, dude, it must have been pretty nice, man. Like, I mean, you were stationed at Fort Lewis in 2nd Ranger Battalion, and you were saying it was like close to your house, and I didn't realize it was that close.
Yeah, like real close. It was really convenient. I never used leave because whenever people going to leave, like, yeah, I'm going home. I'm like, I'm there.
Man, I went home yesterday. Yeah.
Yeah. Like I, you know, so it was great. So I saved all my leave. So I got to sell that back to the Army when I got out. So gave me a nice little paycheck.
Hey, so in terms of this, man, when you were stationed there at Lewis, like other soldiers and Rangers that were coming from other parts of the country, man, did they ever link up with you and be like, hey, Jacob, man, like you're from the area? Did you take them out and little adventures and show them the area and stuff like that?
So that's actually a funny story. I would never take them out, but I knew where to go.
Right.
I had never been there. I have a good buddy of mine, Jerry. He introduced me, him and my cousin Randy. My cousin Randy's pretty much as close as you can get to a professional rock climber.
Mm-hmm. Cool.
You know, he's a cool dude. They introduced me to what Washington has to offer. But when I was in the Army, like I was never going out, but I knew it. I was like, oh yeah, you got to go here, man. Like, I was like, guys, you got to go to Vancouver. Never been to Vancouver. You know, but I knew where to go because I had all these friends that I grew up with in high school. These were all the places they went, but I never went there.
Yeah.
But they did. So I was like, oh yeah, go here, here, here. And then it wasn't until I got out of the Army that my buddy Jerry, we started hanging out. And he's like, hey, let's go here. Let's go do this. I'm like, yeah, dude, please. I need to. Like, this is what I want to do. I just have this, I don't know. It was like some fear. Like, I just didn't want to go out. You know, I was just in that bubble of like depression. And I was like, thanks. So he started showing me all these places. And then I met him. That's how I met Jesse.
Right. Snowboarding.
And then that's how. Well, I was snowboarding with Jerry, and then he told me about ayahuasca.
Yeah.
And he's like, "Do you want to go?" And I was like, "Absolutely, do I want to go?" Because I've been taking doing some peyote ceremonies for about 4 years off and on in that span, and I just knew it got me from down here to where I was, and then I just had this intrinsic knowing that ayahuasca was going to get me another step
right
back to where I was trying to get, which was essentially out of like the pits of hell.
Right. Now, hey man, in terms of military, man, did you have family in the military, like that were influencing you to join?
I mean, no one was directly influencing me to join. That was in my family. I had a mentor / wrestling coach. So after I graduated high school, I became an assistant coach on my high school baseball team. And I was an assistant for the middle school wrestling team. And he kind of encouraged me, but my family didn't. You know, my dad was Coast Guard. He was worked on he was a buoy tender in the Bering Sea. My uncle, his older brother, was a crew chief on a helicopter in the Coast Guard. And then I had a bunch of uncles in the first generation on my mom's side that were military World War II. You know, I had an uncle that stormed Normandy and a couple other uncles on my dad's side that never met. Like my dad's dad was Air Force, but he died while in service over in Holland. Actually, he had just got signed to a Dutch professional baseball team and went out to party and got in a car accident, lost his life that night.
Oh man.
So he was in, and then on that side, I have a couple, like I think one cousin was a Top Gun, and then the other was, his dad was like a 3-star general, but I've never met him.
Yeah.
So, but I have the lineage. I have the, it's in the blood for sure.
So what drove you to want to join up, man? I mean, just the military in general. I know your dad was in the Coast Guard. Did you think about the Coast Guard at any point in time?
Yeah, I was originally supposed to go into the Coast Guard, be a rescue swimmer.
Yeah.
And it was like a 3-month waiting period, and I was just dying I had to get out. I had to get out of town. So I was like, okay, at least I know I got 3 months. Let's see if I can get anything else that I like. Mm-hmm. And I went to an Army recruiter, and he told me that I could play baseball for the Army.
Nice.
So I was like, cool. I was originally going to go in to be a mechanic. But then as I was walking into MEPS, 19-year-old, 18-year-old kid just thinking he's on top of the world. Like, what's the hardest thing I could do? He's like, Ranger Medic. I was like, yeah, I'll do that. just like that. And he just goes, okay. And he didn't tell me that it would negate anything I had in there to play baseball. Like I couldn't, or there's no way I could play baseball as a battalion ranger, but I didn't know that. I just thought it was Ranger School. I had no idea what battalion was. I didn't know what a tambourine was.
Yeah.
I thought I was going to get a Ranger tab and be Billy Badass, right? Playing baseball. I always tell people like getting fed grapes and having, pretty women take care of me. Yeah. That was like my dream at that point. But yeah, that's why. And I always believe some people should serve, in one way or another. To me, I believe teachers serve, like any form of public service.
Right.
And for me, this was it. I wanted to be, Black Hawk Down came out a few years earlier, and like all these movies. And I was like, if I'm going to, it wasn't like hoorah. It's like if I'm going to try to be a hero, like that's the type of hero I want to be.
Yeah.
I want to be one that what I believe stands up for people, like freedom. Like I want to, I believe everyone should have the same rights I have. So I'm going to go do that. Oh yeah.
So how was your time in 275, man? What did you, what'd you get out of that? I know I'm asking you the huge stuff right now.
No, in hindsight, a lot.
Yeah.
Now I'm extremely grateful for my time. When I was in, I had a completely different perspective on it. Mm-hmm. There were some things that I was grateful for and I loved when I was in. But now, I wouldn't go back and change it.
Very cool, man.
Even if you had the baseball career, I was like, no, I'm going to go this way.
Now, as far as like deployments, man, you said you had 2 in Iraq and 1 in Afghanistan.
Yeah.
Out of the 2 of those, man, which one did you prefer? I always ask this because I've done both, and I have a preference for one that I would do 10 times in comparison to the other one. I just want to get your take on it.
It depends because I had 2 different experiences. Mm-hmm. So when I was in Iraq, it was direct action.
Right.
So we were landing on the X, landing on the Y, like just all the cool guy shit. I was, my first deployment, I had 3, American casualties that I worked on and saved. But when I was in Afghanistan, I was in a different role. Mm-hmm. So I was on a camp. I relaxed grooming standards. So I was growing my beard. I had civilian clothes on. And I was just training guys, mm-hmm. showing them how to be, medical skills and stuff like that. So right. I loved it. I absolutely loved it. But then that was also the most terrifying experience that I ever had. Like, because you're surrounded by 250 Afghanis that all know how to use weapons and have access to them. Yeah. And there's like 15 of us,
Did you ever think about going back as when you got out, man, like a contractor helping with the medical training in other places? Did you ever? So was that offer? I
had 3 offers, and I turned all 3 of them down because at that point in time in my life, I was done.
Right.
I couldn't go back then. I just knew I wasn't in the proper place to be able to go back in that environment and be of any use other than that.
Right.
So I turned it down, which there are many times where I'm just like, one more year, it's like, you could have done a couple deployments, you would have been a lot safer, but I don't know, my soul wouldn't let me do it.
Well, hey, Jacob, I want to thank you, man, for your dedication, man, and to your sacrifices. I think we we always get, thank you for your service and things. But I think a veteran to another veteran, I recognize the sacrifices, man, that you've made. Being out there on the tip of the spear as a Ranger medic, bro. You talked about your mother being a nurse. Almost all the females on my mom's side of the family are nurses, and I've always had respect for nurses, man. And of course, corpsmen. Of course, I was in the Marine Corps when I started off, and corpsmen always did me right. And the medics, man, when I was in the Army. And it's man, I have to thank you, brother, for just your sacrifices, man. Thank you.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, the thing is, man, I don't think we tell each other that enough. I think it's almost kind of like, without saying, I respect you for your service. But it goes much deeper than that, man. Especially after getting to know you in the depth of
I appreciate that.
The places you've walked.
It's a weird place to be because like you don't do it for that, but then again, like when people say that, it feels good. So
yeah,
it's a weird place to be. Like I don't like the thank you for your service.
Right.
And I have a lot of different reasons, and more of it's just a feeling like I did. It's just not something that feels genuine to me because that was really kind of pushed hard,
right.
As a PR campaign. I was like, okay, like give me something genuine. Like, thank you for something that's not as easy. So that's why I like to get to know people.
Right.
Like I'll break down and have a conversation with you right there. Like hopefully if I have 5 minutes, then introduce myself to you as best I can in 5 minutes. So if you ever run into me again, maybe you can thank me for something, to my opinion, that matters. I mean, I don't believe that that I could fight for someone else's freedom. I think that only you can do that.
Right.
So when people say thank you for, I was like, sure, you're welcome.
Well, Jacob, I think if you got 5 minutes with somebody, they would definitely be, thanking you for more than your service, man. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. I'm not going to sit here and blow your horn, man, but we're going to have you on here again because I'm telling you, man, you're an awesome person to have conversations with, and I want to get some more out of you for the listeners, right? There's other veterans out there that need some of your sage knowledge and wisdom, man, which we're going to jump into and get even deeper in it. So, hey, you're done with the service, man. We'll jump into a SOG episode if you're willing to do that, and we'll talk about your service more in depth.
Absolutely.
But man, what endeavors are you applying your energy to now?
Well, with the COVID thing, it's been a little different. I have a company, Buzz Bowman.
Yeah.
That we make some CBD products. We do a topical CBD that my mom perfected she started about 10 years ago, just making it for herself, because medical marijuana has just come out, and legalization was still, I think, undecided for full recreational. So she started to use it as an alternative medicine from a car accident she had, which that car accident exacerbated what they call a defect, but she has what's called Chiari malformation. So pretty much her brain was like sitting lower in her skull than it should have been. Right.
Tipped back towards the spinal cord.
Yeah. So instead of having like your cerebellum like this, it's smashed.
Right.
And that made it worse. And nothing was worse. I was still in battalion, so I was kind of like, trying to help her out with what I knew, like what pain remedy combinations can we put together for her, but not kill her, not pull a Michael Jackson type of deal, because she wasn't sleeping. And I was like, look, no, I'm not gonna I had taken Ambien my first deployment, and I had a few Ambien blackouts, luckily stateside. And my roommate told me about it, and it was like, dude, what's going on? And that's when I stopped doing it. So I knew how bad that could be. And her doctor said, you need to choose. He looks at her face and goes, go seek alternative solutions. Because he couldn't legally say, hey, go get some pot, because it was still new.
Yeah.
So she got this stuff, and she's like, my mom, I can make this. So,
Yeah.
She starts doing it, and then we start adding things, taking things out. And then she's, I'm still in the Army, so around medicine all the time. And she's asked me questions, and we're like, hey, I started to shift more, because when I saw what the marijuana had done for her, just simply smoking, got rid of all of her pain medications. The color came back on her face. you know, she was alive again. Like she looked like a walking zombie for years.
Yeah.
And we turned it around. So we said, hey, let's just get as natural as we can. If we can get it, if we can get it local, and we can get it as organic, as natural as we can, that's how we get it. If not, then we try to get it as close to home as we can.
Right.
We started doing it. And then she started raising bees. So we started adding our own honey and our own wax and doing this stuff. And then it just blew up one day. We were like, hey, I got a job at a hemp farm in Oregon. Mm-hmm. A good buddy of mine, Tyrell Rose, another second bat ranger who I'd seen him around, but I knew who he was because he had a static line injury to his bicep.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, mid belly. And that dude's got a story coming back from that. Like, they didn't think he was ever going to use his arm. He's a firefighter. Dude's a stud. A stud.
Jacob, can you reach out to him and just let him know that, hey, I did an episode on Heart of Volunteer Veterans Podcast.
Oh, absolutely. I'll let him know for sure.
And let him know, man, I'm not the coolest dude out there, but I'm not bad. And see if he wants to come on the show and have a chat, man. It'd be great.
Yeah, he's got some great insight, and I love him to death. You know, we have some different views on some things, but I mean, working with him kind of helped me realize, like, we had some beliefs that a lot of people hate each other for, but we were like, no, man, it's all good. I love talking to you. And it was great talking to him. And it was just cool to be around a guy like that. Like, doesn't matter. Yeah. We hug. He was one of the first Rangers, other than my best friend Chip, one of the first Rangers I've ever hugged, like a loving hug.
Yeah. Like
right when I first met him, he was like, hey, bring it in. And I was like, oh, this is amazing. I was like, yes. Cause I grew up around masculinity, you know. It's not that it's a bad thing. It's just that competitive nature that I grew up around that form of it. And to be around a dude that I looked up to in many ways, like, oh, this guy's a badass. Like, you know, when you hear about another Ranger, you know, you do your research, you ask around, you find out who he is. Oh yeah, this guy's a certified badass.
Yeah.
And one of the most loving human beings I've ever met in my entire life.
Yeah, brother, that's awesome. Yeah, we need more of that, man.
Yeah, but I worked with him on his farm, and we started adding the RSO from the hemp plants that he grew, and that set it over the edge. Once we put the RSO in there, that was hemp based. Oh my gosh! I started giving it to, like, my grandfather for years. He's one of the most broken men I know. So we give it to him because it was back, and nothing would work. So we took this, we had it. We're like, Grandpa, here, try this. He's like, okay. 5 minutes later, he was like, well, hell, that worked. And he took it home, and once my grandpa signed off on it, we were like, okay, we gotta do something.
Jacob, I got to second your grandpa, man, because when you after the first time we had corresponded through email, and you hit me back up, it's like, hey, what's your address? And I'm thinking, like, this guy wants to come to the studio, right? You sent me two of your tins of Buzz B, the coconut, and my favorite, the lemongrass. And man, I was having problems with my neck, man. Like we were talking, there's days where I can barely even keep it. It feels like it's going to fall off my neck, right? Off my shoulders. And, you know, I wake up in the morning, take a hot shower, and put it on right when I get out. And like you said, man, probably within 20 or 30 minutes, I've got this calmness and everything is balanced. My head's not bobbing everywhere. I'm not turning my upper body to turn my head.
Yeah.
And, man, it's a game changer, brother. I want to thank you, man, for whatever research you and your mom were doing to get this thing right. I want to thank you for it, brother, because it's a game changer, man. And I'm gonna be talking about this a lot on the show and spreading the word, because it's good stuff, man.
Yeah, it comes from a labor of love. It's all my mom. I mean, everything I learned about, you know, me and my brother and my good buddy Chip have taken it over. And everything I learned about it came from her. And my Aunt Irene always told her something when she's gardening. She's like, every time you plant something, say Hail Mary. You know, I come from a strong Catholic family. So every time my mom would like make anything, including the bee bomb, she'd be like praying the whole time. So it's like, all right, like, hey, as long as you're around, Mom, you have to pray over this stuff for us. So, but when we make it, I mean, we stress that a lot. Like my buddy Chip makes some, because he's in Texas and I'm in Washington. So I manufacture up here, he manufactures down there, and we make a solid point to acknowledge that, like, hey, when we do this, it's a prayer.
Right.
Like we're putting our soul into this. And, when we do it, let's make sure that set the mood.
Yeah.
We try not, if things are going crazy, we try not to do anything if we can.
Right.
Because we want to make it in a good environment. So I put classical music on. That's how I got introduced to like Bach and Vivaldi and like all these beautiful symphonies, is because I was like, I want to put this energy into this product. So
right. Hey,
I love classical music.
Hey, what other products do you guys have, or products that you're working on?
So we have a honey. So we do depending on where you're ordering from. Like if you order from Texas, you're getting all Texas honey,
mm-hmm.
Or at least Houston honey. I mean, Texas is its own country, so.
Right.
But Houston honey, and then we get local Washington honey that we distribute here. And then my brother lives up north in Bellingham in the Skagit Valley. Mm-hmm. So the honey that he sells, he gets from a local bee apiary or beekeeper in Skagit Valley. So wherever we have a person, we're trying to source whatever we can locally from them. So then we just infuse that with RSO, and we get everything tested. So we put our test results on the website, and so we have to make a batch and then send it to a lab to make sure we're within the legal limits.
Right.
And then we just mix to that ratio as long as we have that batch of RSO, and then send it out. We're working on some chapstick tubes.
Yeah.
And then we got some other things thinking about maybe getting into like some soaps and deodorants too.
Dude, I think soaps would be good.
Yeah,
and I think the lip balm. I'm like a lip balm nut, man. It's something that I've had chapped lips as a kid.
Get a little bit of that balm.
Yeah.
Whichever one you like, and lightly, because a little goes along. People need to understand. Like some people would put it on, like it's staying in my clothes. I'm like, yeah, because you don't need to use it like, yeah, like you don't need to use it like you use everything else.
Right.
You don't need a big glob of, like a little bit goes a long way. So I mean, just lightly get your finger coated and put that on there. My buddy Chip, he used to use a Breva all the time.
Mm-hmm.
He uses it if he feels it coming. He puts the balm on it, and I mean it's anecdotal. We don't have it tested, but he doesn't use that anymore. He uses bee balm to keep his lips from breaking out.
I use so I get out of the shower, man. I put on the Buzz Bee Balm. When I have left in my hands, I go right to my beard with it.
Yes,
especially the lemongrass, because we're talking about fragrances, right? They're released by heat. And so when being close to my skin, and especially in the beard area, you get that smell comes back to you. And man, it is one of those things where it's like, a lot of people like the smell of leather, right? And when they smell it, it just brings them comfort and ease, and brings them into a kind of a stated, state of mind. And man, it does the same thing to me, man. Like I'll be walking across the yard, coming over to the studio with a cup of coffee, and then the wind will hit me, and I'll be like, oh, lemongrass. And it's just, it's real good, man. And it's been soft. It's been really soft. So, and in my face, whatever, man. But yeah.
Well, my cousin uses it as her moisturizer. She doesn't buy any fancy moisturizer anymore. She uses our coconut balm. And I'm glad you did that, because I brought lemongrass back for that purpose, for the beard.
Yes.
So before Buzz Bee went big, I started experimenting with making my own beard balms, because I saw my mom made this. I was like, well, I started growing beards. I don't want to buy beard balm. I'm going to make my own.
Yeah. So
I started making a couple scents and stuff, and lemongrass was one of them that people really liked. So we incorporated that with the bee balm, because we kind of want it to be this like what bag balm used to be. You can use it for so many things. This is one thing. We're not going to try to break it down into different products unless we have to. So I'm trying to figure out how to I made a cedar citrus beard balm that is just,
wow.
But the RSO is so, the RSO is so overpowering that I gotta get the ratio right. So,
all right. Wait, when you get that, man, you send it out here for a test run.
Oh, absolutely. I got another buddy in Austin who was asking me about it. He's still got his original 10 left. He's like, you gotta let me know when you got more of this. I was like, all right, man.
Hey, I'll hook you up with some folks that got, some epic beards. I'm over here rocking some Joe Dirt business, man. I got Patches O'Houlihan over here. That's me.
I got to show you one of these days. That's how I started.
Maybe it'll grow some.
When I was in Afghanistan on my third deployment, they used to call me Captain Dirt. So when we would go talk to the NATO guys, just because of our mission, we were allowed to like I was a captain when we were outside of camp, and my buddy was a major, and that's how we would, because we'd have no one's going to listen to a spec 4 when he needs to get shit done. So I was Captain Bowman. Wherever we would go, they were like, "Hey, what's up, Captain Dirt?" Because I had the beanie on, just straight chops. Didn't even come in, just straight chops. It was so trash. And this dude from Georgia, God, I forget his name. He's such a great guy. He's like, just keep shaving, Hoss. Just keep shaving.
Yeah.
And then eventually it'll come in. So for years I would just shave and shave and shave. And then I said, I like it now. So,
you know, my uncle always used to tell me, it was like, hey, what do you got there on your lip?
Yeah.
I'm like, I would touch it. And he goes, you know what you should do is rub a little milk on there. And I go, what? And he goes, yeah, so a cat can come and just lick that off. It looks like just a little bit of dirt. I'm like, what are you doing? But man, he's got full on beard since like from birth. He came out with a beard.
Yeah, he's one of those guys.
Yeah,
like, I got some buddies.
With...
Tyrell's like that. He took a year off from the firehouse to work at the farm, and he just grew this beautiful beard. I was like, oh my God.
Yeah, brother, I would love to have a Leonidas beard, man. Leonidas beard, glistening in the sun.
Oh yeah,
just doing all kinds of things to people, man. A good beard will do all kinds of crazy things to people.
Dude, I let this thing go untamed for a whole year. Did nothing. All I did was put balm on it and then just brush it.
Yeah.
And I got it down to here. It was pretty epic, but it was like I had to
tame
I had to take it back down. Well, because I started growing my hair out, and then like my hair would get caught in my beard, and I'm like, okay,
yeah,
like,
hey,
I might let it come back.
Hell yeah. Hey, so Jacob, you know, I was doing research on Heroic Hearts Project, and you know them very well. They do scholarships for veterans to send them down to South America or even some of the places in the United States that do ayahuasca ceremonies. The video I watched, man, I'm going through their website and I'm watching the videos, and I came across yours, man, and I was compelled to talk to you about, you know, why ayahuasca, what the experience was like for you. You know, like we talked about, I'm a psychology and philosophy double major, so getting into these experiences has always been something that's kind of been my forte, right? It's like observing, asking questions, gathering knowledge. And man, I've always wanted to just know more about this. And I'm glad you're here, man, because we're going to get some questions answered. You know?
Possibly, yeah.
So here's the thing. Why? At what point did ayahuasca become like something that you considered? And did you develop towards that, or was it just that was it?
I developed towards it. It was a good buddy of mine, Troy Schumacher. Mm-hmm. We were I was going to the Golf Academy America in San Diego, going to be a golf pro. Had dreams of playing the U.S. Open.
Right.
And he tells me about this documentary, Neurons to Nirvana. He said it completely changed his mind on drugs.
Right.
And he was like, I was staunch. He was kind of where I was. Like he was like, I was staunch on drugs. Mm-hmm. And ayahuasca was one of the medicines that was on there. And I was like, oh, okay. Like the people that were talking were reputable. Like they put their argument forward, and I was like, oh, okay, yeah. Then a buddy of mine who lives in Puyallup, I worked security for his fireworks stand for a couple of years after I got out of the military as a way to make some cash. Mm-hmm. And he's like, hey man, I'm going to be having a peyote ceremony here in December when you're home from school. Do you want to go? I was like, yeah, I'll go. Sure. So I went and did this peyote ceremony, and it was amazing. They had hunted and got the deer that morning. So because when you come in at the end of a peyote ceremony, they bring in at the morning water, they bring in the meat, the corn, and then the fruit. Mm-hmm. It's all symbolic, you know. It's all, you know, you're blessed and you're praying, and it's to bring abundance to the tribe. Well, so this was like fresh deer. And then we had like full peyote buttons, like it's a cactus. So a lot of people will grind it down into powder. Mm-hmm. and then you take it that way. Well, he had a lot. So we had full buttons. So the bowl would go around and you just take handfuls of medicine.
Yeah.
So I see these guys doing it and I'm like, I got to, right? I got to take at least, I got to take a good amount, at least a good handful or two small. So I try to take a good handful of it.
And what is a good handful? How many buttons is a good handful of peyote?
Well, these were broken down in the core. There had to be at least like 4 to 5 buttons in that handful.
Okay. About the size of a quarter?
Yeah, about each, yeah.
Yeah.
Took those, and it set me on an emotional roller coaster like I had never been on in my life.
Really?
Yeah. I went through everything. I had planned, I was so angry. And I didn't really let anyone know about it, but I had planned I had figured out how to take everyone out in that TP and no one would know about it. Like that's what was going through my mind. Like I was just angry at everybody. I'd find something to be angry at them about. And I'm just going through this thing and like they're playing the songs and you start feeling the peyote is activated by the water drum. So you start feeling these vibrations and you're just feeling all this stuff. And then I look up, and I saw the first blue in the morning sky, and it's like someone just took a gorilla off my back, and I felt like I was floating.
Yeah.
And I just loved everybody. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is what it feels like. So I asked this guy. The guy took care of the fire. His name was Smiley. And it was the first fire that he'd taken care of. And it's an important job. Yeah. Like, the fireman pretty much is the one who runs the ceremony because he sets the tone and the flow. And I started asking him about it. He has Aztec lineage. So I was like, what do you know about ayahuasca? And he told me about it. And he's like, just be sure everyone has their medicine and some medicines aren't for people. Right. Just, and make sure. And he told me this, like a lot of people want to start doing ayahuasca because they want to get cool visuals, but this is medicine. And your intention's important because if you want to go in, just get fucked up, it'll make sure you get fucked up. So you need to respect it. It's a living thing. And that's when I started getting introduced to the tradition of it all. This is a living spirit. This isn't just, hocus pocus. Like your intention's important. How you treat this thing's important. And why you're doing it's important. And I told myself that to get away from the wanting to see the visuals and all that stuff, that I would never seek it out. So just to make sure that I wasn't doing it because I wanted to just go on a cool trip, I said, look, I'll never seek this out, but if it's ever presented to me, I will take it. Right. 4 years later, my buddy hits me up. Like we were on the truck together coming back from I think a hike or a snowboarding trip. And he's like, what do you know about ayahuasca? And I was like, look, I don't know everything, but what do you want to know? I know a little bit. And he's like, well, there's another ranger, Jesse Gould, that has this foundation, Heroic Hearts Projects, and they want to send veterans that have been struggling, have PTSD to these retreats. Yeah. And I was like, whatever I got to do, I'll do it. And it just happened. They paid for everything. It's pretty cool. We had this pre-medicine interview and then post-medicine interview. We even did got our blood tested because they were hitting it from all angles. They wanted to see how it works. So we got blood drawn before and after. We did stool samples before and after. And it was incredible. And that it was just a cool experience.
The stool samples are part of the gut health research that they're doing with ayahuasca. Yeah, so because they're talking about gut health from these psychedelics, that they're actually adding gut health and helping people in more than just the mind way.
Oh yeah, and it's that gut brain connection too. Like they even said, like your gut brain itself, like you've got the connection between these two, but your gut's its own separate brain. Right. And yeah, I experienced that. I've had a lot of issues, going to the bathroom since I've been my first deployment. Right. A lot of times it's just, you get it. I feel like you understand a little bit, Yeah. So the ayahuasca, like that's helped me. Like it used to just be diarrhea all the time. Yeah. and then it wouldn't be for a few days. But after doing some more ayahuasca, like it's helped me out a lot. Like I still have issues, but nothing like I used to experience. And when you take ayahuasca and you go to the bathroom while on the medicine,
everything comes out.
Yeah, and I think everything. I've had some down purging experiences.
Right.
Is what we call it, to where it's like I know I didn't have that much food in me, and it had to just be all the folds. Like it just had to be working with my intestines in a way to where everything was coming out, because there's no way I know how they regulate how much food you eat. Pretty much, like they cook for you, so I know how much I ate. I was like, that's a lot. But yeah, it was great. Phenomenal experience. I mean, changed the whole course of my life.
Now, the cleansing process, man, this was before you got there, and you said it was like 21-day process of cleansing.
Yeah, so they give you a diet. You do a Zoom meeting, and they talk about like types of diet, like things to avoid. Mm-hmm. You know, meats, cheeses, alcohol, sex. So any sexual release of any kind. And it just helps you, connect with the medicine on a deeper level. So,
right.
Like you can do whatever you want, really. But if you want to try to have a deeper connection, because especially if you're eating these things that are toxic to your body, the medicine is going to cleanse you out. And that's what the whole purging process is mm-hmm. It cleans out that stuff from you, and gets it out of you. So if you're full of that stuff, you're going to spend most of your time purging and not having any like profound, deep personal experiences with the medicine.
Did you think, Jacob, going through the 21-day prep, that helped to solidify your intentions going into the ceremony? Kind of a layer of discipline, right? Almost, you know what I mean?
Yeah. No, exactly. I can imagine maybe for other people a little bit bigger, because I was kind of preparing for it for 4 years.
Right.
I had gone down just a lot of rabbit holes, spiritual books. Bruce Lee, there's a book they brought together all his philosophies called The Warrior Within, which is phenomenal. I recommend it for everybody, especially anyone coming back from war. But so I've been preparing for it for a while, but it did add that layer of discipline where it's like, okay, hey, and it was a ceremony in itself. Like that's the thing you start to realize is that's when the ceremony began. Mm-hmm. Right?
Yeah.
And then you prep, you do that, you go do the medicine, and then they tell you again. Once you're done with the retreat, that's when the real ceremony begins. So it's just ceremony on ceremony.
Yeah.
So you do you get there, you do the ceremony, and then when you get out, they said, okay, like the easy part's done. It's easy to be here, and we set up the environment and hold that space for you to go in and work on it. Now that you're going back in the real world, now the work begins. So it's like, what can you integrate? What can stick? Because things that you had a hold of there mm-hmm. at the retreat, you're like, yes, this is part of me. They're going to go away.
And you're going to be by yourself.
Yeah, again, and only certain things are going to stick. I believe it's a rare individual. I believe they do exist that can go there and hold it forever. But, most of those people are the ones serving the medicine, or, we haven't had a demigod expose themselves to humanity for 10,000 years. So.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, hey, Jacob, let's take a quick break, man. But when we come back, I want to talk about where you went to down there. You went to Medellin, Colombia. I want to talk mm-hmm. about where you went to, kind of your impression of the area, and talk about the process of of what you went through.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Look forward to it.
All right, let's take a quick break. It seems as if aches and pains is the price we pay for life. Combat, accidents, sports injuries, or just general wear and tear can be disruptive. I've used Motrin, water. I've even changed my socks to find relief from pain, with minor success. Enter Buzzed Bee Balm, and my neck, shoulders, back, feet, and all points in between are thanking me. I apply Buzzed Bee's lemongrass balm after singing in the shower, and it's made huge differences in my reduction in pain, discomfort, and stiffness. Go to buzzbeebalm.com for more info and ordering. And now, let's get back at it. All right, everybody. Hey, welcome back. Welcome back to the show. Hey, so, Jacob, before we jump into your adventures down there in Medellin, man, going through your ayahuasca ceremony, I want to do just kind of a quick housekeeping thing and talk about the vetting of these retreats down there. Now, we were talking about Jessie Gould and Heroic Hearts Project, and you brought up something really good, man, that I didn't talk about before, that Jessie actually goes down there and vets these places. Can we talk about that briefly and just kind of build up on kind of the safety and the reputability of these retreat centers?
Yeah, absolutely. That was one of the things that really, other than the chance to go to ayahuasca, made me feel comfortable. Is when I first talked to Jesse. He's like, "Look, we were going to go to two places. I think either a place in Peru or ECA, where we eventually were going." And he's like, "Look, I've been to both places. I've taken medicine there." And I was like, "Oh, okay. So this guy's been there. Cool. Just one more check to feel easy, because you're going to especially going to South America as someone from the United States. There's, for the first time, I feel like there's a little bit of anxiety for some people,
right?
Because a narrative has been pushed about South America for a while. So, but it was nice. As soon as I got there, all those worries just melted away.
Yeah.
I mean, Medellin's no more dangerous than any city in America. It's amazing.
Now, what was your experience when you got there, man? Like, I've never been to South America. I would love to move to Costa Rica just to lighten my life up a little bit, right? And just enjoy a few years of just kind of living in peace, I guess you could say it.
Yeah, those people down there, they understand. Like, it's lighter. Like you said, lighten your life up. It's a lighter energy down there. I've seen some people that in situations that if you see here in the United States, you feel bad for them, and they love it, man. They love their life. Yeah. They definitely they know how to live it up down there. But yeah, it was pretty easy. You come in, and it was cool being with Jerry, because he did some contracts when he got out, and he's traveled a lot. Mm-hmm. So you go down to customs, you show them your passport, tell them where you're going, then you walk out, pick up your bag, and we had a guy waiting to pick us up there from ECA. Mm-hmm. They pick us up. We get there. We ended up getting there a day late because we had a horrible experience with American Airlines. So fly anything other than American.
Right.
But they gave our seats away, and we were like right there. Like the lady said, she said, "Oh, I called your name." I was like, "No, you didn't," because we were literally standing over there the whole time. We didn't want to wait in line. We just wanted to be the last ones to get on, sit, because we had little bags, sit down so we could go. Mm-hmm. So we were planning our entrance onto the plane. So it was like 10 minutes before the gate closed, we show up. And she said, "Oh, no, your seats have already been taken." I was like, "How? We have these tickets." She said, "Oh, I called you guys' names." And I was like, "No, because we were eating burgers right there." Yeah. Line of sight. So but it was all part of the process when I think about it. It was all part of the ceremony. So how do we get through this? So we were just like, hey, we're just going to have to call Jesse. Ended up getting a layover in Miami. Met some cool people.
Yeah.
That was actually cool. I ended up talking to a guy that sells French bulldogs.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah. And we got there, and they picked us up. We got to the retreat at night, and I knew it was going to be good when they're like, "Hey, we got some rice and some guacamole left over."
Yeah.
And I was starving. I was like, "Cool, rice, guacamole, whatever." So I just took a spoonful of rice and this guac, and I ate it, and I was like, "Oh my God." This is what organic tastes like. Like, I hadn't had real, like, this is what, it was the best guacamole I've ever had in my entire life. And they left the seeds in. And I remember asking, like, why do they leave the seeds in? I was like, well, you don't want to take out the goodness.
Yeah.
So they would just leave the seeds in there just to keep that, like, energy there. I was like, oh, that's cool.
Right.
Like, it tastes amazing.
I think the seed keeps it fresh too.
Yeah. I don't know, man.
The seed has you can cut a guacamole or a avocado in half, right? And take one half, and if you leave the seed in there, it won't, the part that's still connected to it won't brown. It'll stay healthy.
Oh, wow. Yeah. See, I always use lemon juice.
Yeah. Yeah. Pretty crazy, man.
Well, it's another reason why I love avocados.
Yeah.
One of my favorites.
I've when you talked about, man, like the preparation, I imagine the food that they're giving you while you're there is feeding this natural state that they're trying to move your body into.
Oh yeah, it's the cooks. Louisa, she's been at least one of the cooks, because I've gone down to ECA now. I mean, I've lost count several times. I do other types of spiritual work and stuff down there, but I've been to 3 retreats. Yeah, 3 or 4. I think 3 retreats. 3 or 4 retreats, but she's been my cook almost every time, and oh my gosh,
nice.
I love her. I love her to death. I mean, I love everybody. Her partner Felipe, he's amazing. He helped me on one of my ayahuasca journeys. I was getting beat up bad,
right,
and I needed it, but I was because I was fighting what I knew, and the medicine was letting me know it, and Felipe was just right there. Take me to my my bed so I could lay down if I need, just help me get around. But yeah, that whole, the food is just pure. It's fresh. Felipe and Louise they have their own thing now where they do like meal prepping down in Medellin. So that's how good they are. And they just come up and they cook us their best fresh caught fish.
Right.
It's the best food I've ever had, man. It's pure. It's love. It's grown the right way.
Preparing your body for what it's getting ready to go through. Natural ingredients to help magnify it, I would imagine.
Yeah, I mean, even just eating, even just going there and eating was an experience in itself. I believe it was, on a spiritual level, like cleansing, like just to have that type of food and have it prepared that way, where it wasn't fast food, it was slow food. Like they put intention into their cooking. Like,
yeah.
It wasn't Gordon Ramsay screaming down some guy's throat to make a souffle better. It was like these people were literally, they loved what they were doing and they loved who they were doing it for. Right. And I was one of them. They didn't even know me. Yeah. But they loved cooking for me. And it was like, oh my gosh. That alone right there was an experience. I was like, what? I didn't think I was going to have that experience, right? Like, get to that thought or that feeling and go to the depths I did there. I was like, oh my God, this changed cooking for me.
Right.
And it also changed doing the dishes. Like, you clean your own dishes. So they got the 3 buckets of water, with the soap in one and then the clean water to rinse it off with. I don't think they used bleach either. It was just fresh water. Yeah. So you cleaning my own dishes, put them away right away. Like, I was 30 years old when I started to really like put these life things into play. And it was all because of this. And that's what I needed. It was this experience. I was like, oh, here's how I can make my life more efficient. Right. And by more efficient, happier, better. Because who likes to wake up and your sink just full of dishes? Yeah. But that's the life I was living.
Yeah, I do that.
So now I notice if I got a sink full of dishes, I know that I've got work to do. I got some things going on that I'm not dealing with. Like I'm not being honest with myself about how I'm feeling and what's going on in my life. Because my bedroom's clean or dirty, or my sink's full of dishes.
That's a good. You know what? That's a good point, man. It's a good point where if you don't think you have the time to do something as simple as dishes, because it really didn't take that long. A sink full of dishes. Get the water hot, get your stuff managed, and once you start, it's usually pretty quick. That you said, you probably have something underlying that's making you think you don't have the time. It's a good point, man. I like that.
It's this crazy sense of urgency that I think was a negative from Battalion, but I understand its purpose why we were in. But you get out and there's just always this sense of urgency, and it's paralyzing. Because then you're like, I can't do that. But in the back of your mind, you're like, that's the most, make your bed. Yeah. I even started doing this as a way to get around making my bed. I sleep with one blanket on the top, and I learned that in the Army. Yeah. So we always had to make our bed, and I was like, hey, I need to maximize my sleep. So I would always have my bed made, and then if they allowed me to use boot blousers, I would, but they wouldn't let you use boot blousers to pull it tight. So I'd have my bed made, and then somehow I got an extra, I think it was a sheet. Yeah. So I was in, you're sleeping in your PTs, and it was in North Carolina or South Carolina, Fort Jackson. So it was always hot. So I just slept with a sheet on top of my other stuff. So when they wake me up, I would roll out of bed and I just have to tighten up.
Yeah. And then toss that sheet in your foot locker.
Yep. And I was good to go. I do that to this day. Man, the way I eat food.
I wish
I
I could
don't
do
enjoy
that.
my food. I don't enjoy my food anymore either. It's like, you know, when you're out in the field and you got that long table and they're like, all right, you need to be done by the time you get to the end. That's something that still I have to consciously and like slow down to enjoy my food. Cause I'm just like, all right, what do we got to do?
Right.
And they're like, no, we're here. We're at dinner. I'm like, oh, you know, my dinner. And it's just stuff like that. It's still, those are the things I'm working on. That's kind of where I'm at with myself right now. It's like, okay, let's get into bed.
Yeah.
I think part of that is like, let's be okay with like, let's sleep here. Let's establish something. Establish some sort of root system.
Right.
Because I'm so used to being on the move.
Hey, so on top of the food that's there, man, you're not going into this thing. You're not the only person there with just like a shaman, a cook, your buddy Jerry. There's more people that are coming there for the retreat than just you and a couple other folks. I mean, does it feel like it's packed? 10 people, 15 people, or, you know, what is it?
No, I mean, it's not packed. I mean, you can where they're at, you can definitely find places to go. But I mean, yeah, about 15 people. I've been in the Maloka. It's a pretty big space, but I've been with that Maloka where you've got like 100 people.
Wow.
You know, they do like when they do local ceremonies, you're like just shoulder to shoulder all the way around two rows deep.
Yeah.
And then people in tents and stuff outside, like. So yeah, 10. We had I think 12 in my first retreat, and then the second one I went to, I think we had like 15 or something. But upwards of 20. It just depends. But you get so, I guess based off your intention, like for me, you end up going to your own world anyways. It doesn't matter how many people are there.
Yeah.
You're having your own experience, so.
Well, I was watching a video, man, that was on the Royal Carts page, and they had a veteran that was sitting on the edge of his mat, Indian style, and there was other people around him. And he was talking about his experience during one of the ceremonies, and I didn't know if it was if it's something that you do. It's like when you finish the ceremonies, the next day you sit around and everybody kind of talks about it, or does it just depend on the person? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. It really depends on the person. You know, they kind of tell you that, you know, try not to talk about it too much, because as you talk about it, you're spending the energy that you could be using to integrate it.
Right.
And you're kind of letting it out. So it's like, inevitably we're going to talk about it. But I mean, really, like the perfect journey would be a journey that you didn't talk about with anyone. You just had it and you integrated it. But some of the most profound experiences I've had is when afterwards people choose to talk about it. They'll get together, and this guy, it was the retreat where I was getting beat up. Like it was physically the most.
What do you mean? What do you mean beat up, man? Can you expound on that?
So everyone has a different experience with the medicine, and for me, I was kind of fighting it, and you purge. Well, then I started just dry heaving, and that beats you down. I mean, I was just having this physical experience, this physical like healing with the medicine that I needed to go through.
Right.
Just pain, and I was just done. It got me to the point where I couldn't talk, which people who know me were like, well, that's probably good for you. And I just couldn't do anything except listen to this guy's experience. He was talking about his journey that night, and he experienced his own death. And he was talking about it in detail. And he went through the whole process, fighting it. And then he talks about, he comes to this realization where I realized that I don't need to fight it. And as soon as I stopped fighting it, I died. And then I realized that the state that I'm in after death is no different than the state that I was in during life. And I felt the same. And it was like, this was pretty cool.
Yeah.
And then he just shot across the universe or whatever experience he ended up having. But I couldn't move. So if I wanted to get up and leave, I couldn't. Like I was stuck in this spot. And all I had strength to do was just listen. So it was like one of the most profound experiences for me.
Hell yeah. So you go down there, man, and you're doing 3 different ceremony types. You were talking about the ayahuasca, San Pedro, and peyote.
Yeah.
How do they incorporate that? And how many days are you there for?
You're there for 10.
For 10. Okay. And how do your days work from one day to the next, incorporating the ceremonies into it?
They have a really cool program, how they have it set up. Now, my first trip, we didn't have any peyote, so we did 2 Wachuma ceremonies. So like they're both cactuses. San Pedro grows in the south, a little taller than peyote grows in the north, in the peyote region of Mexico. But normally what they like to do, my last ceremony I went to, is we did the peyote ceremony to start it off. And that's really that's a great ceremony to have when you're starting this retreat, because they're beautiful. There's a lot of singing and drumming, but it's very regimented, right? There's this process to it, right?
Right.
Very regimented. It's still a prayer. Like the whole ceremony itself is a prayer. Like all of it is, but it's important to take serious. And then you go into these ayahuasca ceremonies, which are, I mean, from my perspective, they're so individualized that, you're going to have your experience. But then the San Pedro, or what they call the Wachuma, that's fun. That's like a very South American tradition. And you can use another medicine with it. So as you take your Wachuma, they have coca leaf there. Mm-hmm. And this is just raw coca leaf, what they use to make cocaine. It is I love coca leaf. It's amazing. You put that in your mouth and you don't need Red Bull. You don't need any of this stuff. And it's full of vitamins, everything you need. And it's an anti-inflammatory, painkiller, but at a regimented dose. So you take this Wachuma with it, and then you take this coca, and then I had an experience that it was cool.
Can you talk about it?
Yeah.
I know it's not good to talk about, in depth with your stuff, but
I've processed a lot of this, and I know I don't mind doing it. I plan on spending a lot more time with the medicine, so I don't mind sharing my experiences with people.
Thank you, brother.
So we take the Wachuma, and I'm trying to be respectful here because I don't know how much of the ceremony I can talk about, but they light this big fire. You take your first medicine, and then they let the fire burn down to just like an ember. And then the healer starts singing, and then they get the fire building up again. It's this beautiful process when you're there. And I was really struggling with this medicine. So I went, and they said, just grab the coca leaf and say a prayer. And I didn't hear it when they said, put it in your mouth. So I'm holding this coca leaf in my hand for, I don't know, a couple of hours while this fire dies down, just praying. Like I'm locked in on this thing, just going through some stuff. And then the fire lights up, and I see some more people go grab the coca leaf and put it in their mouth. I'm like, oh, I'll put it in my mouth. And as soon as I put that in my mouth, I went, and I had this connection with it. And a couple people who were there, and my buddy Mark, call him Uncle Mark. I love the guy. He's as old as my dad. He's an amazing man. He's like, dude, you were locked in. Like your hands were like, nails were in the wood. Like I was locked in, and I was aware of it. Like I was out of it, but aware of it. And I ended up like putting my feet into the ashes under the coals of the fire. And they're like, hey, you can't do that. And I'm like, look, I understand. I'm not doing any of this. Like, I was like, I'm just observing. Like, I want to move back, but you're going to have to pull me back. Like, I'm kind of stuck right now. Like, I'm just in a place. And they're like, oh, cool. So they pulled me back, and I went from that place. Like, I'd given up full control. It was an amazing experience. Like, I just let go. I was like, I'm going to let my feet do what my feet want to do. I'm going to let my arms, my hands, and still be aware and observe it. And I haven't gotten back there since. I haven't had a moment like that since, which maybe, I don't need one yet, but it was just really, it was cool. It was, whether it was with the help of the medicine or not, it was just great to know that I could get to that point where I can literally let my body be my body and what is my consciousness.
Right. Man, I
like
really,
who am I? And then it was,
man, I'm really impressed with the way that they operate down there, where it's like it's not like you're going through. It's not like you're taking medicine. You're in the ceremony. You are by yourself. Like, you consume it, and it's all about you. You're in it. But there are people around there that are watching you,
yeah,
that are helping you, that are you're never going to walk off into the jungle on your own. You're always going to be in kind of in a safe place where somebody's looking after you. And of course, like you said, they're doing all the health stuff, no SSRIs, any kind of mental health issues that can't be, you know, fixed without medication, right?
yeah, there's a great vetting process, and then you have to sign some waivers because, like, look, they explain it all to you, and yeah, they're great. Bobby and Jesse are two guys, and I think one of the reasons why I'm glad I went to ECA is Bobby's a veteran from Australian Special Operations.
Nice.
And he's part of this retreat, so it was really cool to have him to talk to and experience with, and he's a great guy, big dude. He just had a baby actually a while back. But yeah, they're great. I mean, Jesse's a guy from Boston. They're all beautiful. They can all sing. It's like, they all play musical instruments. Like, you'd think they puke rainbows and shit butterflies. Like, but they're normal people, but they're great. They got a great group. And yeah, they're there for you. Like Bobby and Jesse, when you're doing ceremony, they take the medicine too, but their sole focus is to take care of us.
Right.
And it's kind of cool because my last ceremony I was with, I kind of got incorporated into that. I've been spending a lot of work with them, and I love them to death. They're my Colombian family.
Right.
And guy got hurt, and they knew my experience. They're like, "Hey, can you come?" And that in itself was a crazy experience. I mean, I'm willing to talk about privately, but it was cool how that thing
right
kicked off. Because it was a serendipitous moment. You're like, oh my God, like, what did you just say? Like the guy said something to me, my buddy Gabor, who I was going to go help out. He said something to me that I had a vision about right before it happened.
Right.
And I was like, oh.
Very auspicious.
I was like, oh, okay. So this is what it's like to know that you are exactly where you're supposed to be.
Right. Now,
it's
Jacob, can you talk, man? You're a veteran. 3 deployments. What did you discover, or what did you, I guess you could say, let go or realize that you could let go from life before this? Deployments, military service, loss, all these things that veterans have as part of service. What would you say, man, that it changed out of that? And I don't even know the right questions to ask, because obviously I've never done this, but
yeah, it's a question I often ask myself, because I think it's more of just you're letting go, but you're not you're taking your hands off of it, but you realize that it's still a part of you. So you're kind of like, you're letting it just be.
Right.
I describe a lot of times like your experiences as like the ghost of Christmas past grabbing you by the hand and walking you through the pane window, like Scrooge.
Mm-hmm.
And you get to see these experiences and then just accept them and for what they really were. So you let go of what you thought it was that was bothering you, and you just kind of accept it as part of your life, and you have to find a way to integrate it. I mean, it does burn some things away, definitely some attitudes, some actions, stuff like that have definitely burned away. I mean, that's probably a better question to ask like a family member, my mom or my dad or someone close to me.
Yeah, they would tell the difference, and it'd be hard to pin it down for the self. Yeah.
Yeah, because I knew I had a problem when I was watching some movie with my mom. I think it was The Kingdom with Jamie Foxx. And something happened in the movie. A bunch of people died who shouldn't have died, and I started to laugh. And she looked at me and she's like, "Who are you?" And that's when I knew something was wrong. When my mom was questioning who I was.
And this was before you did any ceremony.
Yeah, this was before I did these ceremonies, like right before I got out, and that's when I was like, "Oh, this isn't normal." Okay, but yeah, I mean, you let some certain things go. You know, that crude humor is still there, but there's a lot more compassion. Yeah, I let the love flow through my body a lot more.
You know, we were talking, man, the other day on our 2-hour conversation that we had about Native Americans, man, and the way that they used the healing power of natural elements, psychedelics, to help basically cleanse themselves of, I like to say of war, man, but that wasn't an easy life back then. You could be out hunting with you and a friend, fall, break your leg, all this kind of stuff. The environment was full of danger. And how do you live with that? And the thing is, we talked about Native Americans, how they would, when their battles were over, they didn't just come back to the village, start stomping around and raising hell. They stopped a terrain feature away, right? And then they sent a runner to call for the medicine man and the scalp chief, and they would come out there, and it was a process, like you said, going to a ceremony of cleansing you, so that when you came back to the village, you didn't pollute the village with what you went through. And I wish we had that built into our cultural philosophy, man, but we just don't. We lost it. And I think we lost that opportunity to progress people moment to moment. Like, people are having struggles, but they're progressing. Struggles, progressing. I don't know, man. I don't know.
I don't know if we lost it, because I think the beauty is it's in our foundation. It's a Native American practice, right?
Yeah, we have to embrace that.
Yeah, right. Like, it's not just, and obviously I've struggled with it, because my family, I have ties to this land pre-revolution.
Mm-hmm.
So I hope there can be some distinction here. This might be one of those viral moments for you. How many generations until I can be a Native American? Because I don't know where I'm from. I'm not European. Mm-hmm. I don't claim to be. I'm not going to say my ancestry is from European, even though I could trace it back to Europe. But I don't know any other land than the United States. Mm-hmm. So it's a part of me. It's a part of you. Like, we're Native American, and I'm not claiming First Nations. Like, you may be, but I'm not claiming I'm First Nations, but I'm a Native American. Mm-hmm. And for me, it was this realization that that's a part of my heritage. Because for a long time, it was that European slant. I was raised Roman Catholic. There's a strong European slant to this stuff. Mm-hmm. Cowboys and Indians, you always want to be the cowboy. And I started to realize, like, but I'm the Indian too.
Yeah.
Like, all that history, like, not just the, I don't just come from slave owners. I come from slaves. I come from all of it, because I'm the amalgamation of every American that came before me.
Yeah.
And so we still have that. I don't think we've lost the opportunity. We just haven't taken advantage of the situation.
I think we don't see it anymore.
Yeah, as a whole, we don't, and that was an asserted effort. I mean, we could dive into that. That's what the buffalo killings and all that stuff was about, was to get rid of that. And you can go down whatever conspiracy hole you want with. It's all about control, but I think we got to move past that, because now you can see the effect that we have as veterans, as people who've been to war, coming back to our communities without this cleansing process.
Yeah.
Look what it's done to society.
Right. Well, you can look at like generations that come back from war, and they just bottle it up. We were talking before, man, about other cultures, first, second, third century, even before that, where a lot of people question it. That the Spartans were boy lovers and stuff like that, but man, they had a way of talking to each other. I mean, they were a people of war, right? And you have to have a way to bring that down, and to have a philosophy that can dissect it, right? so it's manageable for you to take in, and you can continue to live. I think that's what we miss. That little piece that helps us to digest war, trauma, and for us to come out the other side better off than what we were. And I think that's where ayahuasca kind of comes in, man. I think it gives you that connection that you need with yourself, right? Because it's like, my experience doesn't mean anything to the guy next to me or to the gal. It really only means anything. It's significant to me. And me, myself being able to understand it is life-changing. Because you don't understand it, you're looking to other people for understanding. But you're getting someone else's idea of it. It's not your own. And I think that's a game changer, man.
Oh, absolutely. And the beauty of it is like peyote specifically is a warrior medicine. It's designed to open up your heart. And so when you do your teepee ceremony, it's like you're there for yourself, but you're not. You're there for everyone else. And then everyone else is there for you.
Yeah.
And you get this connection. You start to get this understanding of everybody. So ayahuasca can be very, very individualistic. Mm-hmm. So when you blend it with, but it's not in its own way. And I think once you take it, you'll understand.
Right.
But on the surface, one could say that's very individualistic. But then these peyote and wachuma ceremonies, they bring in the unity of it all.
Right.
It expands out, and it's this beautiful thing that they've meshed together down there. And it's called the Eagle Condor Alliance because of the Eagle Condor prophecy. Mm-hmm. The condor's the bird of the South, the eagle's the bird of the North, and it's all about the Americas. It's about bringing us back together.
Right.
We like to separate. When you hear, oh, you're American, people automatically think United States of America, when really that's Canada to Argentina. That's what American is.
Yeah.
That's what it means to be American. And we have this ability. There's so much diversity here on this whole thing. It's like, to me, that's what the American dream is. Yeah. Like, let's incorporate all of this together. Like, we could be the U.S. of A, but when it comes to America, let's start acknowledging what's here, and like these practices of cleansing. And you talked about how it's tough back then. How do you live with that? And it's like, well, that's the answer. You live with that, and you just figure out how to make this partnership. And you gotta be like mushrooms. Mycelium, it's a one-celled organism. It's where the mushrooms come from. Mm-hmm. As they move along, they're continually passing back information with its surrounding environment and finding a way to live in equilibrium.
Yep.
So a mushroom that's here can be completely different than a mushroom that's right here because the soil composition is different. Mm-hmm. So it's found a way to live with it, like in harmony.
Right.
And that's what we are. We're just walking fungus, and we have the ability to do whatever we want. That's the thing. That's that great gift every spiritual religion talks about. It doesn't matter if you're Muslim, Catholic, whatever. Free will. Mm-hmm. So what can we do with it? And then all the stories is like, hey, if you come together collectively, your power is amplified. Why do we have, hero teams? What do you think Avengers is all about? Justice League. That's what they're all about. That's our mythology. That's the philosophy that we have that's right there in front of us that we don't notice because comic books are for children.
Yeah. I still like the MCU, though.
Yeah, because they're right. Comic books are for children. But here's the thing. You're always a child. Just don't act like a child.
Right.
So, and I think that's another thing in our society we've lost. Like, grow up. What do you mean by that? That's a loaded question. You're going to destroy that kid now. Like, grow up, act right, but continue to be a child. Because once we stop doing that, then that's how depression sets in. That's how all this stuff turns to shit and people storm the Capitol.
Taking life too heavy.
Oh, way too heavy, man. Like, it's a game. It's a game.
Yeah.
And look, there's some serious. It comes back to this whole like freedom thing, and it reminds me of this, Braveheart, Mel Gibson movie. Mm-hmm. He's like, he's gonna go meet with the king, and they know it's a trap. He's like, look, all men die.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of when and why.
Right.
And are you willing to die free?
Yeah. And
how that's become such an angry statement and sentiment these days has just baffled me. It just shows that there's just a lot of people that they're not angry. They're sad. Because anger is just an accessory emotion to that, right? So they come out because they're fearful. They're scared. Mm-hmm. They're hurt in some way, and they don't know what to do. And it's because, we haven't had these experiences of unity. It takes a village, yet if someone gets pregnant, no one cares.
Right.
You know, it's not a community here. We're not everyone in your town isn't grandma or auntie, you know, but in these indigenous cultures, they are, in these tight knit families that, you know, you go to make Native American reservation, everyone's cousin.
Yeah.
Everyone's family. And they, you know, they have their faults. We can, you know, there's things we can do to help them too, but we got to get to that. Like, we're in this together.
Right.
It doesn't matter what politics you believe in. Like, you need help, this is how I can help you.
Right.
And the military is a perfect example for me of how I think society should run. But, you know, that's socialism, I guess.
That might be another episode for us to jump down that.
Yeah, man, that's another thing that the medicine's helped me with, is just history buff. I've loved history my whole life.
Mm-hmm.
It's what I do in my spare time.
Okay.
And it kind of opened my eyes to a lot more of what, like, the real history of things. And it's like, oh, okay, now I get it. And it's a game. You get the game, you understand, then you go, oh, these things work. Like, oh, that wasn't what you said it was. You just called it that because you didn't like that person.
Right.
So it's like, let's look at some things. Let's have some conversations. Did you
notice, man, and this is like a philosophy of mind thing, is that like intrinsic biases, right? Like the things that you just do and you have, like, it's like autopilot, right? It's like breathing, digestion, that kind of thing, that all of a sudden you kind of realize that there was, like, you looked at it and, like, this doesn't make any sense. Did you have, like, some of those moments?
Yeah, a lot of them with medicine.
Yeah.
That's the beauty of doing it in a group thing. Like, so you'll have the medicine and you'll see someone do something and you'll know, oh, I do that. And you'll be like, why?
Right.
And then you either keep it, you look at it, you analyze it, you keep it, or you get rid of it. And it's helped me do that a lot. And it's constant.
Yeah.
I still fall back on the old habits. I'm a little bit more aware of it now. I catch it a little bit sooner after it happens. And, you know, at least I'm able to, you know, I'm continually working on myself. I'm not just, you know, you have those people, oh, I knew who I was when I was 25. It's like, oh, that's sad.
Yeah, dude, I'm 47, man, and I'm still trying to figure it out. You know, we talked about, like, the kind of stripping away of things. Man, I smoked cannabis for the first time in, would have been just a little more than 4 years ago. I smoked, I drank, stopped smoking. And then alcohol just kind of went away. And this wasn't like me smoking my face off. I was a dual major, you know, at university.
Yeah.
Doing this stuff. And it was building, it was re-scaffolding me, man. It was putting me back together in over time in an organized fashion. And then I gotta tell you, man, the very first time I did psilocybin, old mushies, man, that was a game changer. It was a game changer in the sense of I didn't know myself like I thought that I did. And all of a sudden, it all stemmed from a laugh. There was nothing funny around me, but it started, man, at, like, deep in my chakra, and it just started bubbling and raising. And it took time, and it just kept happening. And all of a sudden, it came out, and I was just laughing. And I came to the conclusion, man, that I am my own happiness. I am my own laughter. It's within me. There's no reason for me ever to be sad, to ever cry, because there's happiness within me. And man, that was a game changer for my mental health.
Yeah, that's a beautiful moment.
You know what I'm saying? I know people are probably listening to this and being like, "Good Lord."
Well, you have to have that. You have to have that experience to understand it, because it's a feeling.
Yeah.
Like, I understand you're trying to explain it with words, and it's like, that's the problem with a lot of this stuff is no matter what I do, I can never explain it to you.
In its entirety. Yeah.
I'm always gonna be a little short. That's
what she said.
But yeah, she's never said that. But actually, no, that my height all the time. That was something that helped me get over too. Like, that was a thing. Like, high school, always too short.
You were too
even
short?
in my adult life. For certain women, you're too short.
How tall are you?
5'6". I'm 5'6".
5'6". And
Yeah.
you look taller than that, man.
Well, yeah, the camera adds, you know, I have it. I know angles. I have things set up like
Right.
these are all actually like all these things that look tall. They're super short.
Right.
Yeah, I'm on the set of The Hobbit. No, but like that was a thing for me, you know, being too short, and like medicine helped me get through that stuff, you know, because you don't think it's a big deal.
Yeah.
But then, you know, growing up in a culture that we do as men, like how you're supposed to be with women, and you're like, I don't even have control over this.
Yeah.
You know, but then again, that's why people. It's funny because I have a cousin who's dating a girl from the Netherlands, and her mom was too tall, so she got they get their shins cut down.
Right.
Yeah, and then I was just like, oh, okay, I'm fine. Like, never mind. People want to be shorter, great. Like, you know, it's just I don't know how I got on that tangent. It was just the medicine. You know, the medicines reminded me of it. Like,
right.
These things don't matter. You know, like you said, the cannabis is rebuilding you in a way, in an orderly way. And it's like, yeah, these things fall away and these old worries. And, you know, I've had an interesting relationship with cannabis. For me, it's definitely something where your intention's super important.
Yeah.
Like, why are you smoking it? If you're smoking it just to get high or to block something out, it's no good. But if, you know, you want to, I don't know.
Man, I
don't know how to explain it.
You know, my cannabis ritual, man, was it's never been like alcohol, right? Alcohol was like good time Charlie. Cannabis has always been like, it's one, relax me, unlock me, right? Because you get locked up in yourself. It's like, hey, let's drop these walls. Let's open up this range, this left and right limit, so I've got more of a view, and then I can start basically discarding things. And that's what I did, man. I started discarding things that did not fit me, that I was just, I'm like, what? I ain't doing that. Doesn't make any sense.
That was a beautiful way of explaining it, man. That's the best way to explain, I think, what the proper use of cannabis is, if you want to respect it.
A little microdose and just kind of.
Yeah, don't worry about what the THC levels are, what some dude created in a lab to get you stoned.
Mm-hmm.
You know, why are you using it? And then you can have a gram. Like, I've had joints in the past that were like super high potency, but I went into it with this intention. So that thing would last me a whole week.
Yeah.
Because my intention was just to, hey, I just want to loosen up, like expand those left and right limits, and go somewhere. So it's when I got to the, you know, that party use of it, like, hey, you're just with your boys, let's just blaze up for no reason.
Yeah. Like,
you're not going to have a philosophical conversation about anything. You're going to, you know, listen to dumb stories from high school.
Right. I don't like that. I've never.
No, it's. I do.
I want some depth.
Like, I'll be honest. Like, I grew up in that moment, so there's times where I'm like, yes, let's go to that place. Like, I'm cool. Like, let's just chill.
Yeah.
But yeah, I am more so like, hey, I have to now, like, especially with it, I've told all my buddies, like, look, I'm done, like, smoking with you.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm still going to use it, but I'm going to do it for certain things.
Yeah.
And they've all respected it. And it's been nice. I've been able to actually have those moments with them where it's like, hey, we actually smoked again. Because, like, hey, let's talk about this idea and see if we can't open up our understanding of it a little bit.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah.
You know, I had that the other night with mushrooms. Did the hero's dose the night before we talked for the first time.
Right.
And it was just some of the perspectives, and it's helped. It helps. I mean, it just takes a little bit of that extra weight off that you put on yourself for so long, right?
Yeah.
That depression, you know, that weighted blanket just takes a little weight off.
Man, you know what, Jacob, I want to thank you, man, for helping people to kind of get an idea how they can unpack their own rucksack, right? We're out here as veterans. We got veterans that are running around with 200-300 pounds in their ruck trying to carry this thing. They're trying to jump it. The goal out here is you need to get everything out of your ruck. One, you can't help anybody if your ruck's full. You got to have an empty ruck so you can help, you know, put someone else's stuff in your ruck, take it off of them.
Yeah.
And know the understanding that you can take their stuff, understand it, and help them get rid of it. I want to thank you, man, for coming on and helping out with that. You know what I'm saying? And dude,
I appreciate it. It's an honor to be here, man. Thank you for, you know, doing what you do, having this platform. platform for people to.
Well, we got to get you on here again, man. And like we said, we've got like 50 topics that we can touch on. And here's the thing, folks. This isn't like a 2-minute discussion. As you can tell, this episode's over an hour long. But this is what happens, man, when two veterans get together that are of like mind and want to take that trip and travel the road to knowledge, man, to get better as veterans, because that's all we can really do.
Yeah, absolutely. And you ever want to talk, man, hit me up whenever I am.
I will, man.
I'm down. I'm down for it.
Hey, when you come here to Texas, man, like I said, I know you go down to Houston most times, but if you can make it up here to the north, to Lake Texoma, LZ Ranger's always open to you, man. Always open to you.
I'll make sure it's just in the route. Let's plan for it.
Well, hey, Jacob, I'm going to leave you. I'm going to let you close out the show, man. This is the co-host closeout. Obviously, you're not a guest on the show. You're a veteran, so you're a co-host. Just talk to the listeners, man, and we're going to close out the episode. You got the last words. Once again, thank you for coming on, man.
Yeah, I appreciate it, man. I thought I was going to be ready for this. A lot of pressure. But, I mean, all I can really say is just be willing to tell your story. Own it. All of it. It can be scary to own what you perceive as the dark aspects of who you are. But when you do that, you get your power back. And then you can really start to shape who you want to be. Because we all have demons in our closet. And we can either let those demons continue to run our lives, or we can acknowledge that they're a part of us, and then we can just right the shit. And it takes time. You're not going to stop a 100-mile-an-hour train on a dime. If you do, you're going to have chaos, catastrophe. But if you slow it down bit by bit, turn that thing around, and you can keep all the cars attached that you want attached. You just got to slow down.
And now, folks, it's time to say goodnight. We sincerely appreciate your patronage and hope we've succeeded in bringing you an enjoyable evening of entertainment. Please drive home carefully and come back again soon.
Heart of a Volunteer, copyright 2021.